All right, hello and welcome in to another Duly Noted podcast. So we appreciate all our fans that are out there, and I've been going around the state talking to people and getting a lot of feedback on it. It's great to hear. In fact, we got a little bit of an announcement to make because of what I've heard out there from people that want more of something. You'll never believe what it is. Another Duly Noted podcast is presented by Titan MRI. Appreciate Joe over there. I went to his tailgate 2 weeks ago. Still undecided what I'm doing tomorrow. Okay, I'm just saying. And I'll talk about this in a minute. But we are live from the Shackow and Mercandani studios. Shackow and Mercandani does a tremendous job, and we appreciate them so much. Our sponsors have been amazing. We still have room for more, but they have been amazing to us and allowed us to keep this going and just enjoying it and having fun. Looking forward to it. Now, I'll be honest with you. At the very beginning, it was a lot of, I got to get guests, and I got to do this, I got to sell advertising. I'm enjoying it now. It's been a lot of fun. I'm hoping to do this for a long time. And appreciate everybody, all of our sponsors, and all of the people that have come on board, and all the people that listen and watch. And of course, you can listen to us on any of the 39 platforms and watch us on Facebook and YouTube. And so it's not hard to get in touch with us. And We'll get to all of our other things a little bit later. We'll have Major Wright is going to join us in a little bit. Of course, Major Wright, great player at Florida, and also wrote a book that was very good. I've got the name of it right here. I wrote it down to make sure I don't screw it up. Major Payne, Confessions of a Smash Mouth Safety. And we'll talk to him about the fact his brother plays for the other team. Come on, man. But I'm wondering who he's rooting for. That's the question. That's the biggest reason I'm having him on. And so it'll be interesting because he says he's driving while he's going to do this Zoom video. So hopefully, I know what it's like. I have now become friendly with I-75. I would stay away from that like the plague. But to get here, the best way is 75. So we're coming here 3 times a week, twice to do the podcast, once to do the radio show with Jeff on Thursdays. And then I've been doing a lot of driving up and down I-75 to give speeches in different places. It's been great. Ocala was Wednesday night. Gainesville, the quarterback club, was Tuesday night. Of course, we love them there. We had a little glitch, and then it got resolved. And once it did, Greg McElroy was fantastic. He was really good. This week, Phil Fulmer, sometimes it's hard to say. Phil Fulmer, I did it again. Phil Fulmer will be the guest, and I'm pretty sure he's an in-person guest. So it'll be nice to see Phil again. And so I went ahead and told my Spurrier Fulmer joke to that crowd Tuesday because I don't want to tell it in front of Phil. It's a pretty good one. Should I tell it here? Okay, so we'll tell this one real quick. Then we'll go on and talk about Alabama. So the story I get is this: they're in Destin. Spurrier, Jerry, walking down the beach, and there's Fulmer and his wife Vicky, who is she's a workout-aholic. She really is in great shape. So they're walking up, and as soon as they get up to each other, Spurrier goes, "Well, at least one Fulmer works out." That is probably something I won't tell Phil Fulmer, that joke. All right. It has felt like a different week. It's kind of a weird feeling, though. It's kind of this almost, hey, here's a chance to do something special. Not sure how much I'm going to like what happened Saturday, but here's a chance. And, one issue that we may have is weather. It's going to be a hot day, but it's also going to be a rainy day. But again, this is Gainesville. It might rain the whole game. It might not rain at all. We have no idea. That's just the way it is. I don't know who that favors. I know that you got a guy with a hamstring injury that he's going to play, but obviously in Anthony Richardson. But you never want a guy who has a hamstring problem. All of a sudden you slide a little bit and it tweaks up again. So again, that could be a factor. It could not be a factor. Who knows? But you're facing this eating machine here that's coming in there. Alabama is amazing in what they've been able to do. Think about this. If Alabama does not win the national title this year, their fans are going to be disgruntled. They're going to be unhappy. They're going to wonder what went wrong because that's what they expect. Nobody else, I know a lot of teams say they expect that, but they don't really expect that. Clemson wants to get back to that game now. They're not even worried about winning it. They just want to get back to playing in that game. Ohio State was in the game last year. Do you think their fans were disgruntled after that anyway? Lost to a great team. Whether it's Notre Dame always getting beat in the playoffs, Oklahoma always getting beat in the playoffs, but at least they're getting there. Florida lost to Alabama last year, and everybody's like, man, that's as close as anybody came to them. We're number 2. That's where we are, though, where Alabama is this, like I say, this eating machine. All it does is eat, swim around, make baby Alabama fans. That's all they do. This team has scored in 28 straight games, 30 or more points. So think about that. Your best bet is to win a game where there are a lot of points. And we are still uncertain about Florida's offense and if they can get to that point against an elite team. And again, whether this is an elite defense or not remains to be seen. The record all time is 31 straight games held by UCF, but that's like, okay. Yeah, UCF, they played Bishop Sycamore in one of those games, I think. So I'm not – look, this is the best offensive run I think maybe we've ever seen in college football. And that's the other thing. Nick Saban's 10-0 against Dan Mullen. Now, does that have anything to do with this week's game? No. But the fact is, he's 10-0 against Dan Mullen because he's 10-0 against a lot of people. The only guy that ever seems to be able to beat him is occasionally Zeppo Sweeney, and then, of course, Malzahn had a way of somehow every once in a while beating him. And these players that are coming in here they've been in some big games. And so I'm painting you a negative picture. Ventrell Miller out, it's a negative picture there. With him out, they're going to be playing a lot of smaller guys, younger guys. It might work out for them. In fact, Alabama's not run the ball particularly well this year in their 2 games. But, Ventrell Miller was the heart and soul of the defense. Now he's out for the year. You never know how it's going to affect a team. You never know. But I will say this. Here's where we're going to find out what Florida's about, what kind of team they have. Do they have a team that just getting to a decent bowl game is going to be good? And that doesn't mean if you lose 31-30 and like you had a jump ball in the end zone. No, I'm not going to lose respect for that team. And I'm not even talking about necessarily respect. I'm curious whether this team has what it takes to be a really good team. I don't know that they can be a great team. I don't even make that argument. The only way they can be a great team is if Anthony Richardson can get everything in his wheelhouse playbook-wise and become the quarterback and become great. And that's where all you guys are going, yeah, I told you, I've been telling you, Dooley, Anthony Richardson needs to be the quarterback. Yeah, on some plays he does. Heck, maybe he needs to be the middle linebacker with Ventrell Miller out. He's an unbelievable player, but I've said this 100 times. Say it one more time, and then the game will be Saturday. They can't win, I don't think, against this team without both quarterbacks. They need them both. They need one of them in there to be kind of a guy who knows what's going on and can take advantage of it, and then they need this spectacular guy who may do great things. And again, we don't know that Anthony Richardson is going to be able to do those great things against Alabama's defense. Everybody can say, well, he'll average 70 yards a carry. It's a different game, man. It's a different game. But here's my opinion on this whole thing. Florida, in a way, and I don't even want to say they're playing with house money because house money means you've accomplished something. You really haven't. Florida is playing with they should play loose. They really should. Because here's the bottom line. If they lose this game, it doesn't mean they can't win the SEC East still. It's still going to come down to Florida, Georgia. You've still got to beat Georgia. So maybe this game's not going to prove you can't, but it may make you wonder whether you can because that's where we are in the college football season. This will be 3 games in. With everybody, because look, let's face it, what we have in college football is a ranking system, which, look, I love the polls. I've talked about it before. I'm not going to talk about it again. I love the polls coming out. But the polls, the first poll is based on what you did last year and, what you have coming back and what your brand is. And mostly on brand, okay? That's the first poll. The second poll is, what'd you do last week? One game. Take this one game synopsis. And I'm guilty of it. I do the same thing. Second game, now you're trying to figure it out, and sometimes you screw up and you go, God, I had that team ahead of that team, and that team beat that team. The third week, you're all settled in. You're a quarter of the way into the season, and you're looking at it and you're saying, I think I know what this team is. Now, what'll come, we'll see. But I think I kind of know what this team is, and that's what you're going to find out about Alabama and Florida. Alabama fans are in the same boat, in that they're not sure. Look, they beat the crap out of Miami, but they didn't play that great. They got up to that early start, and then I watched the game, and it wasn't, and they obviously didn't play great against Mercer last week, but that was not unexpected. They'll come in here loaded for bear. We'll see what the crowd's able to do to Bryce Young. Fans are going to be going nuts. There's no doubt about it. But the bottom line is, they still aren't sure if this is a national championship team. They know they're number one. But the one good thing for Alabama is nobody seems to be doing anything overwhelming. So they may go and feel like, let's go do statement game here. All right, by the way, if you thought the Miami win was not a big deal, we're going to show you a win that really matters. We're going to go to the Swamp, which instead of playing in front of our home fans, which they did in Atlanta against Miami, and we're going to take that crowd out of it early. So you got that, and then you got this Gator team that we're not sure how good they are. We have no idea. We know they've got one spectacular player. Everything else seems to be right now pretty average. And we'll see if they were able to step and break through and be a really good team. And that's the thing. If you win this game, you're a really good team. You even play this game close, you're a really good team. But you go out there and get trounced, you're not a really good team. One other thing I wanted to mention before we get to Major Wright, and we'll take a break and then get to him, is another thing that could happen this week. And I'm mentioning this not just because Ken Hesser, who sponsors our Hesser and Kepca, sponsors our games of the week, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But he texted me about this Auburn-Penn State game. There's a couple things to think about here. If Auburn beats Penn State, then I think everything changes, because now you kind of look and go, well, Auburn could beat Georgia, I guess, if maybe they're that good. I'm surprised what they've done. But again, they beat Alcorn and Akron, okay? And that's why I think Penn State will beat them. Although I will say this, Ken Hesser, Penn State 6-6 in whiteout games, so it doesn't really necessarily mean that much. But it'll be an interesting. This is a week where the narratives are going to be established on so many teams. We're going to go, okay, now I can settle back, and this is what sets up for the next quarter, the next 3 games. But we all know what we think these teams are. We'll know more, and certainly no more than Florida. I mean, that is the team that I will find out a lot about on Saturday. And again, it's not win or bust. It's play good or bust. If you don't play good in this game and you don't give it all on the field and you don't get things done in a lot of different ways and continue to make mistakes and whatever, then we'll know kind of what they are. Okay? All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Major Wright, and we'll talk to him about a lot of things. We got a lot of things to talk to him about. And, of course, we got to get to Adam's Ribco to go, Gator of the Week, the Hesser and Kepca Games of the Week, and the Lock of the Week, which we're still looking for a sponsor for. It's the one thing we're kind of still looking for a sponsor for. And I can get why you didn't want to do it, because my Lock of the Week for 2 weeks in a row lost. Although last week was ridiculous. It was a tight game, and I had 27 points, and they ended up losing by 28. How does that happen? We got to get to the hand law 3 things, and we have an announcement to make on that as well, and the Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. All that and more when we return on another Duly Noted podcast here from the Shack Allen Mercandone Studios.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
car accidents, trucking accidents, motorcycle accidents, and wrongful death. If injured or killed by the negligence of others, who will fight for the compensation you deserve? Shakow and Mercadante, 5 lawyers, more than 100 years of combined legal experience, millions in settlements and verdicts. Call Shakow and Mercadante, 371-3000. Rebuilding lives.
Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer to Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. to Go. Come on down and enjoy it. This is Pat Dooley encouraging you to become a member of the Gainesville Quarterback Club, the oldest organization anywhere dedicated to Gator football. The club meets weekly during football season with an impressive list of speakers, including Bobby Stoops, Phil Fulmer, Steve Spurrier this year. Meetings are held at the Best Western Gateway Grand, and they have a special offer for you. The first 3 meetings you can attend for only $100. Believe me, this is a bargain, and trust me, you'll have a good time. Get off the bench, it's time to score for the Gators by joining the Gainesville Quarterback Club.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Here's to you and to you again. That good water, that good Gainesville water. Nothing quite like it here. Oops, got to make sure I put it down on the Spurrier coaster. What does this one say? You can't spell citrus without UT. That's a good one. Next week, it's funny that Florida is such a big favorite or underdog this week, a 15-point underdog, which you don't see a lot in the Swamp. Next week against Tennessee, they're a 17-point favorite already. The odds are already out, which means that Florida would be, or Alabama would be a 32-point favorite in Gainesville against Tennessee, if you want to take it that far. I don't know if you want to take it that far. We just found out we do have, we got our Monday guest settled. Really happy about that. Peter Burns is going to join us. We love having him on the show. And then on Friday, Robbie, as I said, will be in here. So we've got next week all locked up. We got a Facebook comment from Tommy Lowe. If Florida wins, we have built a program back to competing for championships. If Florida loses on a last-second field goal or plays hard to afford a 7-point loss, then Florida might be back. Have to see how the season plays out. If Florida gets beat by 14 or more, then the last 4 years have been wasted. Well, and we need to think about where this program's going. Yeah, this program is going in the right direction. They're building and again, I keep going back to the same thing I've talked about before. Until they get that building up, then we'll see how well they recruit. But to lose by 14 to Alabama doesn't mean your program's in terrible shape. It means Alabama's really good. They're the best. I mean, you got to, and if you can at least, you give up a late touchdown and lose by 14. That's not. It depends on how the game goes, you know. And I'm not worried about it. I mean, Florida could lose that game by 14, win out, beat Georgia, SEC East champs, go play Alabama again. Let's do it. I mean, I think that's the thing that you have to look at. I mean, but it is kind of a statement game in a way for Dan Mullen and his staff too, you know, and that what they have to do, what they have to be able to do to make it work, you know, to get it to a new level. And that's what I think everybody's kind of been waiting for. You know, I talked about this to a lot of people about, you know, Florida having that taste in their mouth of that incredible success they had in 06 and 08, and then the basketball success too. And it's hard when you've been through that to ever want anything less. And Florida wants to get back. And we've talked about that. Teams that think they're back and they're not. Florida's not back yet. They're closer to back than a lot of these teams. They're closer to back than Miami and Tennessee and some of these other teams, definitely. So I'm just checking real quick, see what's going on here. Hopefully we can get him on in just a second. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this game. And again, I talked about that Auburn-Penn State game, which is going to be really interesting. There are a lot of good games this weekend. Not a tremendous amount of them, but there are enough good games this weekend to keep us interested. And I keep going back and forth, and that's the other thing. I was going back and forth, like I got invited to a couple of tailgates, and then I was thinking, man, maybe I'll go to the game. And you kind of want to be there if it's spectacular. And because there's nothing like being at a big game where the crowd goes nuts and everything happens just crazy. It's just wild. You want to be there. It doesn't have the same aspect on TV. We all know that. So we'll see what happens there, and we'll see what happens with those games being played. But, I mean, you know, then I started thinking, if it's raining, I don't want to go be in the rain. Nobody wants to be in the rain. Nobody does. Nobody. And I hope it's not, because, I mean, this is the kind of big game that people have been waiting 2 years to tailgate for. I mean, 2 years ago, the Auburn game, I know it's not as big as number 1 Alabama, but it was still a big deal, and the crowd was unbelievable from start to finish. I've said that before. It's the loudest I've heard the crowd for a sustained period ever. And that's what you'll probably have something close to here. I don't think it will be as loud to start the game. And let me take that back. I don't think you'll have that sustained loudness early in the game the way maybe you did for that other game, that Auburn game. Because for that game, people started getting loud 15 minutes before the game. I think when you go into that game and you're a fan, Florida fan, you probably look at it and go, those guys are a lot bigger than our guys. I'm a little bit worried. And so maybe it subdues it a little bit. But that's what Alabama does. It's the way they handle it. They are they're pretty incredible. They're pretty incredible. So we'll see what happens there and with some of these other games. And we'll get to that. One thing I wanted to announce about a Hand Law 3 Things, of course, has been a sponsor for a while now. We love Chris Hand at Hand Law. They are now taking on the Robbie Andrews sponsorship as well, and because they want to be a big part of this podcast. So that's going to be cool. And we're going to start actually getting Robbie on more. Robbie will be on Friday, but we're going to start doing like little 10-minute segments with him every Friday. And they'll be sponsored again by Hand Law. And we appreciate them so much for doing all the stuff they are. So we need to get to all that stuff a little bit later. Still waiting to see if we've got Major Wright on. I'm not sure we're able to get him. And if we aren't, we aren't. We've done this before. We've not gotten guys on before. Managed to do an entire show. That's what we do. No, I haven't gotten anything yet. Yeah, so. Yeah, well. And this is bad TV or radio. It's bad podcast. Can you edit this out of the podcast? this segment when you send it out. But I've got a lot to talk about. I just don't know whether to get into something, and then he comes on, and then, okay. But I will hear from the Shaq Allen Mercadante Studios. All right, I tell you what we'll do. We'll do the hand law 3 things right now, because we just talked about hand law and how great they are and how glad we are to have them as a sponsor, now sponsoring the Robbie Andrews segments of this show as well. All right, number 1 on hand laws, 3 things. Oh, and hand law, by the way, 3 things is presented by hand law, as is a Robbie Andrews 10-minute segment, a Florida law firm which helps clients with government. You can learn more about hand law by visiting its website at www.hand.law. The firm is available for consultation in Jacksonville. You know, Evan's got a few tattoos. Maybe I need to go get that tattooed there, because he's probably got a good place for me to go. That place was right across from that Panama City place I was staying. That tattoo place you said you went to in Panama City, yeah. I have no tattoos so far. I may get a Beatles one eventually. All right, number 1 on hand law. This is an interesting story in no way possible, but I'm going to use it anyway. Purdue has brought its big drum. It's got a big drum, okay? It's 10 feet tall and weighs 500 pounds. Big drum to every game with its band since 1979. They will not be allowed to take it to Notre Dame. And here's why. They have only one tunnel that's big enough to get it through, but because they've shut that tunnel down except for players and officials, so nobody else can go through there. It's a COVID precaution, so they can't fit the band through any other tunnel. Now my question would be, well, why don't you put them through another tunnel? But I'm not going to worry about that. This is the best thing that could ever happen to the Purdue band, because now the Purdue band, 90% of America had no idea Purdue had a big drum, right? I didn't know that. Did you know they had a big drum? They have a 10-foot drum, and they can't get it into this game. And now somebody's going to talk about it. I just talked about it. They'll probably talk about it on game day. They've got a lot of cool things to talk about. There's one guy at Portland State, the head coach there, that is offering, they're going to do something on this, so you can see that Saturday, is offering free beer to anybody who shows up for their game. Like, wow. That is interesting. But apparently they're playing in Nowheresville. I think they're playing at a high school field, actually, or something like that. But anyway. So anyway, that Purdue, no big drum, but now everybody knows about your big drum. And this would be the appropriate time to say that's what she said. All right. Number 2. If you did not read Brooks Kepka's comments about the Ryder Cup, let me just kind of fill you in. He basically is not happy being at the Ryder Cup because you can only do so many things. You've got to go to meetings. You've got to work out a certain time instead of whenever you want to. Blah, blah, blah. Typical Knowles, what I would say. And a lot of people have taken umbrage with that, including Paul Azinger, who's another Knoll. But And you know, a lot of people have. And my solution to this problem is tell Brooks, if you're not really into this, if you don't want to do this, we'll bring Billy Horschel in. He'd really love to do it. He's one of the top 25 players in the world, playing great, just won the BMW Open or BMW PGA over in overseas. Let's bring Billy in. Let him be the on the team. I guarantee he's going to play his ass off for you. Brooks Kepka, I don't feel like playing hard today because if I win, it's not like I won everything. And, man, whiner. All right, and finally, number 3, because there's been a lot of talk, and we just talked about the USC, the Auburn-Penn State game, and how that game is going to be a really interesting game, but you wonder about the effect of players hearing in the media, of course, that James Franklin could be a top candidate for that job. And, of course, he's saying, no, I'm happy here. And you never know how that affects a team. Sometimes it doesn't affect them at all. I did a story last week for a Gators Wire about how Spurrier supposedly had predicted a 30-point win for Florida over Alabama. And then some writer had done something with it, and anyway, it became a big deal. And then I was asking the players about it. This is a 1991 game. Players about it, how much did that affect? They go, what happened? I don't understand what you're talking about. No, a lot of times the players could have no interest. They know what they're dealing with. They totally know. So anyway, my theory on the Southern Cal job, though, is if I was Southern Cal, here's what I would do. I would have a firm, and this is where you can use a firm. Don't use it just to hire your coach. You use a firm to do your, come up with the 50th best recruiting head coaches in the country, because that's what they need. USC needs better players. That's the bottom line. Get the 50th best recruiting coaches in the country. And you go down the list. Nah, he ain't leaving. Nah, next Saban, no. And you get down to a guy, this guy might, how much are we willing to pay? And you make that call. That's what you need to do, is get good players. And, I mean, it doesn't always work. I know that. It didn't work with Will Muschamp. Great recruiter. Ron Zook, great recruiter. Didn't work. But at least they left teams for other guys. They left players, and they brought players in. They've got to figure out, it's so hard to hit on a guy who can recruit and coach. There aren't that many of them. You know, some guys can coach above their recruiting, like Matt Campbell, and some guys coach a little bit below it, like Kirby Smart, to be honest with you. So anyway, all right, we're going to take a break. We're going to try to figure out I'm getting texts and emails from different people. We're going to try to figure out what's going on there. Hopefully we come back with Major Wright. If not, we've got all of our other things to get to. So we'll be right back. You're watching Another Dooley Noted Podcast live from the Shackau and Mercandani studios.
Car accidents, trucking accidents, motorcycle accidents, and wrongful death. If injured or killed by the negligence of others, who will fight for the compensation you deserve? Shackau and Mercadante, 5 lawyers, more than 100 years of combined legal experience, millions in settlements and verdicts. Call Shackau and Mercadante, 371-3000. Rebuilding lives.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Another Duly Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer to Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. to Go. Come on down and enjoy it. This is Pat Dooley encouraging you to become a member of the Gainesville Quarterback Club, the oldest organization anywhere dedicated to Gator football. The club meets weekly during football season with an impressive list of speakers, including Bobby Stoops, Phil Fulmer, Steve Spurrier this year. Meetings are held at the Best Western Gateway Grand, and they have a special offer for you. The first 3 meetings you can attend for only $100. Believe me, this is a bargain, and trust me, you'll have a good time. Get off the bench, and it's time to score for the Gators by joining the Gainesville Quarterback Club.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Another Dooley Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted Podcast. We're still trying to hook up with Major Wright. We're having difficulties, technical. I think he's having technical difficulties more than we are, and again, we're about to see another rainstorm come through here, so it's going to be interesting to see how this dampens the crowd if it does tomorrow. But again, we don't know whether it's going to rain all day or rain a little bit or sprinkle or, this is Rainsville. That's what we call it here in town. So we'll hope if we get them on, we get them on. If we don't, we've got plenty of stuff to talk about and I was thinking about this. Now, we're going to have Peter Burns on Monday, which will be great. But I was thinking I could do a show Monday for an hour just talking about what happened, because that's kind of where we are. The first two games, the Anthony Richardson highlights were really it. Nothing else happened where you went, oh, they're going to be good in the secondary, or they're not going to be good in the secondary. Even in the offensive line, well, yeah, how many quarterback rushing yards did you get? I forgot to look that up. I should have. I mean, it's got to be 300-something yards for Florida's rushing and quarterback rushes between the two of them. And some of those are scrambles and some of those are design runs, but I don't know for sure if that makes their offensive line that much better. I will find out. This is, again, another example of when you can find out. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a quarter of the season down. Now you kind of know what you have and what you're working with, and that's what Florida's really worked at in the last two games. These two games against FAU and USF was to see what they have, and now you take all that information, you drive home on the bus, you're probably looking at film and on your laptop. And Anthony Emery, what? 430 rushing yards. And they've got 666, I think, overall, right? Sign of the devil. So 430 yards rushing for those quarterbacks. So we'll see what happens with them going forward. But anyway, all right, so let's move on. And we will talk about the Adams Ribco to Go Gator of the Week. Now, it's been interesting because usually... Oh, get my headphones on, he said. All right. Does that mean we have Mr. Wright? Okay. I've got headphones. Major Wright, what's going on?
Oh, man, everything is going on. How you doing?
Good, man. Hey, let's I was thinking about this story the other day, how I was sitting with Urban Meyer the day of signing day, and he had agreed to do an interview, one-on-one interview with me, and you called and to talk about him and how fired up you were about coming to Florida and how you were going to make, this was going to be special. And he hung up the phone and he goes, that guy's going to be a leader on defense. I go, okay, all right, I believe you.
Oh, that is so dope. Yeah, man, those were the days, man. Those were definitely the days, man.
Yeah, they were. I mean,
I definitely
go ahead.
had a little fire coming in. But that's just me as a person, Me being the leader, I feel like, I learned that just growing up, learned that from my mom, and the people that I grew up around, my uncles and stuff like that.
Well, I know you wrote about that in your book, the book Major Pain: Confessions of a Smash Mouth Safety, which came out last year. You wrote about the family and how, you were very fortunate to have a great family that was right there for you and kept you going.
Yeah, man. I mean, like my support system, I couldn't have asked for any better support system, growing up. That was key for me. And I think that's what kind of, that's not what kind of, that's what made me who I am today. My personality, who I am, where I get out my, just being a gentleman, and just understanding life. I kind of get that from my family. My family, some of them grew up in the church. Well, a lot of them grew up in the church, so we was just well grounded, and I had a great support system.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So when you come up here in that first year you're playing, and that defense was a bunch of kids. I know you got 7 starts that year, but that defense struggled because it was you and Joe Hayden and a bunch of young guys, and so it was kind of a surprise that Florida's defense had fallen off a little bit. But I kept telling people it's all freshmen out there playing.
Yeah, I mean, we was young. We didn't quite understand what we was really getting ourselves into. At that time. We were just happy to be out there making plays and really just enjoying it. The things that we can, but we didn't really understand the underlying of defenses, what it really takes to be a successful defense. How we can take our game to another level, communication. Like, we didn't understand that at the time. We were just happy to be out there, be on the field, and just enjoy that time that it took to grow.
Well, and now 2008 comes and you start every game. You have 4 interceptions, and of course everybody remembers the hit on the sideline. Was that calculated, or when you saw him going, you go, I got to figure out what I'm going to do? Was that all spontaneous?
No, it was already, my mind was already made up. Once I seen him throw that ball, I needed them to fear me, not just, because if I got an interception, that game can go so many other ways, But I felt like if I was to strike fear in them, I think it'll make them hesitate more. It'll definitely make them not run the routes the same. It'll definitely make them not want to come across the middle. You know what I'm saying? Because I will always be on their mind. So and that was my philosophy throughout my football career. Period. I wanted to make sure I struck fear into my opponent, because once you fear somebody, their game isn't the same.
Well, and you did that, and that obviously that had a huge effect on that game. But I wonder what you could get away with now, the way you used to hit. I mean, now you'd be ejected from half the games.
Absolutely nothing. I wouldn't be able to get away with nothing. I would not be able to play the game. I would not be able to play the game of football today because of the way that I grew up and the way I was taught the game.
Right.
Like, I was taught to play physical. I was taught to go out and be a headhunter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was taught that. Like, now, nah, they're not allowing that. They're not accepting that. Like, it ain't even some of my regular tackles, helmet to helmet, whatever, the case may be. Like, I wouldn't be able to touch the field. And it'd be
your brother's touching the field, though.
Yeah. He's definitely doing it, but he's this is area where it's they have to adjust. So after I left college, they changed the rules.
They did, yeah.
So he had a couple of years in high school, or to fix his bad habit. I couldn't have fixed my bad because I was too deep in the game.
Well, let me ask you this. Go back to you coming to Florida. Why did you decide on Florida, and then why could you not get your brother Daniel to decide on Florida?
I decided to go to Florida because for one, Reggie Nelson was leaving.
Oh,
So that kind of opened up another
the
spot,
eraser.
you know, a free safety spot. Yes, exactly. Two, it wasn't that far from my, you know, where I'm from. It's only 4
Right.
hours away. So
Right.
that drive is so much easier than jumping on a flight and having to take a 3 to 4 hour flight to get to where I'm at. So we spend an extra amount of money that we don't have at the time, you know?
Right. There's no NILs then, yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, and my little brother, you know, people always ask me, oh, why you didn't get your brother? I mean, everybody has their own life, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
wherever you do decide to go, because nobody made me go to University of Florida. My heart told me to go to University of Florida. So I'm never the person that pushed somebody to go somewhere I went because I went there. Nah, because at this time or the era, it may not be for him. You know what I'm saying? It was
Right.
the perfect time, the perfect era for me to go to University of Florida because of the things we did. You know what I'm saying? Like the stuff we did there, like we made history. You know what I'm saying? So it was my time
Sure.
to go to University of Florida.
Well, now the big question I've been wanting to ask you is who are you rooting for Saturday? Because with your brothers playing for Alabama and you're, you know, being a Gator, I mean, I gotta ask you who you rooting for.
Oh, I'm for sure rooting for Alabama. I mean, not Alabama.
That's
I mean
what I
Florida.
thought. Blood is thicker
I'm
than
for
water,
sure
right?
rooting for Florida. Yeah, so I'm definitely rooting for Florida, but I do want my brother to go out there and play well. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like I'm not against that. Like I want it to be a great game. I want to, you know, this and that, but I'm definitely a Florida. Like this is home.
Yeah. Well, he's playing good. I've watched him play. He's played pretty well this year. I know he had an injury about 3 years ago that kind of set him back, but now he's getting to play, and that's great to see. Certainly. Hey,
So
I wanted to ask you about.
I haven't
Go ahead.
even really been watching any college football lately. Like this season, I haven't really watched any football.
Too busy, right?
Just grinding, you know, just grinding and
Yeah. Tell the listeners what
Just
you're
start-
doing now. I know you're doing a lot of stuff.
yeah. So you know, I wrote my first book, you know, last year. Came out last year, and not just, you know, me writing my first book, but I started my own publishing company.
Oh, really?
So now I can help people get their stories out and you know, be able to make a change in the world because of their stories. You know,
Sure.
I want
That's
to
great.
be able to, you know, impact I want to be able to impact in that form to get and have one of the, you know, biggest publishing companies out, because I know a lot of people, and I know a lot of people who got great stories and they want their stories to get out there, you know. So that's in the works. I have my book bag company, you know, the Wright bags.
Mm-hmm.
I got a foundation, you know, called The Right Way, where we helping single parent moms.
That's great.
Yeah, that's about it right now.
Well, that's great. That's keep working at it. Hey, before I let you go, I wanted to ask you this question. Okay, when you played your 6 years in the NFL, and I know it's hard to walk away from it, but you played 6 years in the NFL and had 9 interceptions, 3 for touchdowns. I want to know if you can remember the 3 teams you scored against.
Man, I remember that like it's yesterday. Come on. I scored against Pittsburgh Steelers, St. Louis Rams, and Detroit Lions.
You picked off Matthew Stafford and ran it in the first touchdown you had.
Yep, Matthew Stafford. And then my second one was the St. Louis Rams, Sam Bradford.
Sam Bradford, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And my third one was Ben Roethlisberger.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good lineup there.
Oh yeah, I got some pretty good quarterbacks under my belt now.
You do. Hey, now you say you haven't been watching college football, but you're watching the game tomorrow, right?
I'm not just watching the game. I'm gonna be at the game.
Oh, there we go. It's hey, when Major Wright's coming to the game, it's a big time game.
It's a huge game. It's definitely a huge game. I'm actually in the car right now, driving up to Gainesville right now.
Well, that's great. Great to see you, man. Hey, we'll be at the Hilton doing our radio show from there from 4 to 6. You want to stop by and say hello?
Okay. Oh, well, you say 4 to 6?
Yeah.
Okay. If I could make it, most likely I probably wouldn't even be able to make it because of the game starting at 3:30. And then I gotta go talk to the recruits and stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm probably not gonna make it in town before y'all leave.
All right. Well, we'll hey, have a great time in town, and
thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Welcomes back a hero, Major Wright.
Thank you. Hey, and everybody can follow me on Instagram at LilMade21, LILMAD21. My Twitter is the same, LilMade21, and I'm starting a YouTube channel. That's what I meant to bring up.
There we go.
A YouTube channel, yes, yeah. So, and my YouTube channel is just gonna be about positive, spreading love, empowering people, living life, traveling, and just finding balance in life. Where I be working, showing you guys how I work, then I be showing you guys how I travel and just enjoy life.
Well, that's great stuff, man. I'm glad to hear all this. I always love to hear when somebody who played at Florida and went on and had a great career and then ends up really doing the right things with his life, and that's great to hear, Major. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, Pat.
All right, Major Wright, one of the great Gators of all time. One of the great hits of all time. There's no question about that. We're not going to take a break because we got to get through because we got sidetracked there. But it's great to finally get Major on this show, and we will again. Peter Burns on Tuesday, Robbie Andrew on Friday. Adams Ribco to go, Gator of the Week. And I was talking about this and how because volleyball has kind of been struggling, it's been in soccer it's almost like non-existent. I mean, I'm giving Amato time. You're not going to turn things around quickly, but volleyball losing 3 in a row. But I did find somebody, and that was Sophia Victoria, who started her first match this week and had 24 kills against FSU. Now, Florida lost a tough match. FSU's really good. Florida lost. But Sophia Victoria, 24 kills in her first match against FSU, which is pretty darn good. So she is our Gator of the Week. They play Coastal Carolina Saturday at noon. So if you can go in there, watch Florida volleyball. It's kind of a warm-up for Florida-Alabama football. And they play them again on Sunday, I think at 1. But let's see I'm sure they'll get things turned around. Just some tough losses to some really good teams. So that is our Adams Rib to Go Gator of the Week, and I am leaning that way hard tonight. I got to talk my wife into it because she sometimes goes, no, let's do this. No, I'm leaning hard towards Adams Ribco to go. Go get some ribs, bring them home, and just chow down. All right, the Hester and Kepca games of the week. We talked about Ken Hester the other day. Earlier today, big Penn State guy. I'm sure he's a little bit nervous. Hester and Kepca is a Gainesville law firm that specializes in family law and workers' comp. And we appreciate them for being sponsors. They're actually going to add, I think, we'll see. I'm getting people to be a bigger part of this, and it's really cool. Our high school game of the week is Hawthorne at Newberry. And in fact, that's where Jeff's doing the game. So that game will be on CBS 4. And that'll be a really exciting game, really good game for the high school game. Our SEC game of the week, of course, is Florida-Alabama. I'm not going to just say, well, other than Florida-Alabama, what is it? Well, that's pretty much the biggest one by far. And by the way, Alabama, I keep reading this, Alabama has a 27-14 lead over Florida, but they vacated one of those wins. The one in 2005 when they destroyed Urban Meyer, 31-3. That was the pro throw injury game, which was really sad. But you can't count that as a win, but do you still have to count it as a loss? So is it still 27-14 or is it 26-14? Think about if they hadn't come in and won 7 in a row now against a variety of coaches. I think 4 different coaches have lost 7 games to them. Florida was right there. I mean, which is pretty darn impressive because of the run that Steve had. Steve was 6-3 against them. But Florida Alabama is the game of the week, and I think it's the game of the week in the country. Although the national game of the week is that Auburn Penn State game. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how. I don't know how good Auburn is. I have no idea. I know they're really good against bad teams, and sometimes you build up a confidence and it works for you. Penn State, I think, has had 2 really nice wins to start the season. It's going to be interesting to see where they go from here, and it's going to be a fascinating game. I can't wait to see it. Also, we're adding in an under the radar game. Our under the radar game is Stanford at Vanderbilt. Now, the reason it's the under the radar game is both these teams were so bad in week 1, we thought they might want to give up football. Stanford has been struggling, as we all know, and then Stanford goes out and beats USC so bad they fire the coach. We don't want him around. He lost to Stanford. That's the way you used to feel about Stanford. But lately, I mean, obviously in the last 20, 15 years, they've been pretty good. And then Vanderbilt, with Clark Lee as their coach, looked so bad in their first game, and you're like, they may go 0-12. What happens? They come back and beat Colorado State. So it's an under-the-radar game. Nobody's paying attention to it, but I'm interested to see if either one of these teams gets to 2 wins. They have to. You can't have ties. You got to get to 2 wins, right? So that is our under-the-radar game. Some other spreads for you. Well, I tell you what I'll do. I'll give you the lock of the week, and we're still looking to get this sponsored. And if I don't get this one right, then we'll go to something else. And don't forget, when we're doing these sponsorship deals, we'll work with you on anything. We like to do things that make you happy and that make our listeners happy. And so we'll work with you on anything that you want to do to be a sponsor. But my lock of the week is Florida State getting 5 points against Wake Forest. It's at Wake Forest. But look, I've watched this Florida State team play. They're better than they've been for a couple of years. I know that they lose on a fluky play. It happens, but you shouldn't have kept them in the game. But Jacksonville State's not that bad, I'm telling you. They're a good football team. FSU's, I still think, is a much better team than they've been. And I will take that 5 points in a heartbeat against Wake Forest. Now, will I be rooting for Wake Forest? Yes. Some of the other spreads that I found interesting, Georgia's 32 over South Carolina. Boy, that would be tempting to bet on South Carolina. Don't forget, they've won both their games, and they've found a quarterback from their grad assistant, deal. Penn State is 5 over Auburn. It's actually gone down. I think people are starting to bet on Auburn a little bit more. Notre Dame 7 over Purdue, and no big drum. And Miami -6 against Michigan State, which that is an interesting game right there. Really interesting to me. All right, finally, we get to the Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. And again, thanks to all of our sponsors. We really appreciate you. A bunch of guys qualified last week, including, Edward Spillane, Todd Kissauer, Matthew Fail, Scott Hart. There are a bunch of others. I got a long list. So we will draw on next Friday for the next winner of our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks, which will include a $25 gift certificate from Leonardo's at Millhopper. Man, they're going to be hopping this weekend. There's no doubt about that. Here are your 2 picks. Gators giving 15 to Alabama. You can go either way. You can take Alabama and give up 15, or take the Gators and 15. It can't be much simpler than that. I don't know which way I would go, to be honest with you. That's a tough call. I think I don't know. I don't know which way I would go. And then the second thing, the team that rushes for the most yards. And normally in a game like this, you go, wow, the team that rushes for the most yards will win. Well, Florida has leading the conference, and I think leading the country in rushing yards, mainly because of that quarterback stuff we were talking about. But also, Alabama is like 10th in the SEC in rushing. Doesn't mean they haven't tried to run. Maybe they haven't tried to run as much, and we'll see how that goes. So that could go either way in theory, but this is why we play college football. And the great thing is we have a great game with 2 great teams, 2 great programs. Crowd's going to be electric. It's going to feel like we're back to normal on Saturday. Unfortunately, Alabama is back to normal too, and that's going to be the hard part. We'll see what happens. On Monday, I can't wait to do Monday's show. We have so much to talk about with Peter Burns about not only that game but all the other games. I'm getting the hiccups here at the very end. Wait a minute. All right, for Evan Miller, my producer extraordinaire, who got me that water, and for everybody else here at the Shack Al Mercandone Studios, and of course here at Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, which this place is going to be. It's already they're pouring in there already. I got to get out. Until then, I'm Pat Dooley saying I'm deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.